Shut them down, round them up, put them in jail. Some of the people who are calling to shut down Assange and WikiLeaks, first and foremost, Eric Holder. This one is unbelievable to me. United States Justice Department launched an investigation immediately, one day after WikiLeaks began releasing its latest batch of documents, not during the summer, but this batch. Here's the guy that said this about Americans.
Though this nation has proudly thought of itself as a ethnic melting pot, in things racial, we have always been, and we, I believe, continue to be, in too many ways, essentially a nation of cowards.
Nation of cowards. Eric Holder, a guy who won't prosecute a slam dunk voter intimidation case. The most bravery he's been able to muster is shutting down illegal Prada sites. But he leaps into action on WikiLeaks. At the right time. Not the first time. Now. Other politicians have lined up to hammer WikiLeaks. There they are. Senator McConnell, Senator McCaskill, who said, I believe, recently, she's a progressive Democrat, that we should get the pitchforks out. You have Senator Lieberman, Mike Huckabee, Senator Feinstein, you have Michael Chertoff, former Secretary of Homeland Security. Remember the guy who was invested in those scanners that you're now using? Charles Cully Stimson, senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation of all places. Representative King, Hoekstra, Senator Christopher Bond, Sarah Palin. Bill Kristol said why we can't act forcefully against WikiLeaks, why we can't use our various assets to harass and neutralize Julian Assange and his collaborators wherever they are. Mary Matlin, who I love, called him a terrorist. Sarah Palin, we should go after him like a terrorist. What's happening? What's happening? Honestly, some of these people are progressives. Some of these people, I don't think, have put everything together. World politicians. I've never said these words except as a joke, but I mean them now with everything in me. My fellow Americans, please listen to me. The world has changed. It has changed. It's no longer in the box that it always has been. What used to apply no longer does. And if you don't start thinking out of the box soon, the top will come down on top. You must think out of the box. You cannot look at today's problems and try to understand them or solve them in the ways we always have. You must understand you are in a revolution, a global revolution, whether you like it or not. And the rules of the games have changed. Many politicians are good-hearted people, but they don't understand simple things like who Cass Sunstein is. The game has changed. China is the world's superpower now. And many people in the world at the top level are grabbing for the scraps at the table. Who can run the rest of the world, or who can run this area and give the service and the energy and everything else to China? Revolutionaries have plotted our demise for a very long time. Do not play the game they were expecting you to play. They're expecting you to continue to think in the box. Why do you think they've tried so hard to get us off the air? Someday I hope to be able to tell you all that I have experienced. They know we have the answer. They know. And here it is. You must not move as they expect you to move. They are playing three-dimensional chess. They are expecting. Do you remember what they kept saying about from the day he got in? I think it was Claire McCaskill in Missouri that had Homeland Security in Missouri say the Tea Party people are violent. They expected you to be violent, and you weren't. 828 threw them for a loop. Why do you think they work so hard to poke and to poke and to poke? They need you to be violent. Well, if you won't do it, they'll get their minions to do it. Look, have you ever seen a bulletproof car? How was it the Prince and Camilla got their bulletproof car to drive into a crowd of people screaming for revolution? It's a trap. WikiLeaks is just such an easy one to point out. They've set a trap for you. Option number one, the leaks continue. Chaos, we cannot do business. Option number two, people cry out to shut down WikiLeaks, and they do by shutting down the internet and our communication with one another. It is bottom up, top down. Bottom up must rise up and turn us inside out, and the top will come down. You lose either way. Look, I don't know where you are in the stage of grief, but you must get to acceptance quickly. Life is going to change in America. As we know America, it is over. It's only a matter of time before it all plays out. But that doesn't mean it has to be worse, that it has to be about oppression. Okay, so we don't have the stuff we have. Is the stuff you have really making your life any better? It's not about the stuff. Remember what we learned on 9/11. It's not about the stuff, damn it. It's about the people, and it's about our families, and it's about freedom. You must think out of the box. They feed on fear and violence. There's one thing I will never do, and that's called progressive stupid. Their ideas on how to run government and enslave people are stupid, but they are not. A trap that has been created here. We lose either way. They think. Unless you do the most dangerous thing, the one thing they're not expecting you to do. Back in a minute.
The razor-thin margin, the recount, the White House hanging in the balance. Through exclusive video and first-hand reports, we go inside the unprecedented political drama and take you behind the scenes of the Bush-Gore 2000 election controversy. Watch as Brent Baer hosts Fox News Reporting, 36 Days That Decided the Presidency.
I've done too much blabbing today, and we're running very late on the show, so the show is going to continue at foxnews.com/Glenn Beck right at 6 p.m. I'm not going to leave the studio. The network will move, and then I ask you to join me online for just a few more minutes here. I want to show you one more thing. At the top of the program, we showed you Robert McChesney, founder of Free Press, who the PR of Free Press is now the spokesperson for the head of the FCC. He said revolution would not happen without media reform. Now here's Josh Silver. He's another founder of Free Press. The champions for net neutrality and how we need to protect the American people. Watch.
The question is, should companies or the government be allowed to censor and block content that's on the web at will, or do they need to follow constitutional law? And so that's really, at the end of the day, what's the question here, and whether there should be stronger laws that enable the Federal Communications Commission to protect WikiLeaks and other transparency entities so that their content cannot be blocked.
This is not about principle here for them. This is not about principle. They've boxed us in. Remember Arianna Huffington? As I just showed you, she's supporting Assange. For what? He's exposing the truth about government. He's doing basically what we do, except we're not breaking any laws. We're not sharing secrets. Every day at 5 o'clock on this show, that's what we do. We express our point of view. And what does Arianna Huffington say about us?
There is something that we need to really pay attention to with Glenn Beck. We cannot just dismiss him, because the truth of the matter is that there is a good reason why we have an exemption to the free speech protected by the First Amendment when we say you cannot shout fire in a crowded theater.
Okay, so there's an exemption for me. But the same people would like to protect or give an award to the guy not shouting fire, but shouting revolution, shouting chaos. The difference here is I'm not helping them. It's not about principle of free speech. I will protect the free speech of anybody over at MSNBC. I will stand shoulder to shoulder with them. But I expose their plan here, the revolutionaries. The answer is not that hard, though. It is for them, because it's about principles. Honor, merit, and peace. I'll show you the answer next. You know, if you ever feel like, oh gosh, there's no hope or anything, I want you to really understand the story of the American Revolution. They were so certain in the British House of Lords that the Earl of Sandwich got up and talked about the American revolutionaries. And many of them did this. I'm going to give you just this real quick quote. He said, I wish instead of 40 or 50,000 of these brave fellows, they would produce in the field at least 200,000. The more the better. The easier would be the conquest. Believe me, my lords, the very sound of the cannon will carry them off as fast as their feet could carry them. Well, he was wrong, wasn't he? Why? Why? Because this man knew. He wasn't a good general at first. He knew. He talked about the only way to beat the British was to be people of merit and honor. This was the inspiration for the Purple Heart, and this was the inspiration for 828. This was the original badge of merit given by George Washington. He knew the only way you could defeat the most powerful army on earth were to praise God and to be clean and virtuous in your own life and to know the principles. Please, I beg you, take this, give it to your kids, give it to your grandkids, give it to everybody you know. Memorize this. This is who he was. This is who he was. These are the principles of what we have in this country. Please, read them and be a person of merit. He will solve the problem. On tomorrow's program, a man who I think is a George Washington. You will see struggle, merit, honor, liberating strife. Make sure you see tomorrow's program. And this show now continues at foxnews.com/Glenn Beck. Go there now. More you need to know. We didn't have time to squeeze in the show. From New York, good night, America.